the first Block 2 ship at Massy's for cryo testing, OLM next level stacking at Sanchez, Ship 31 tile work ahead of Flight 6, and the flame trenches pumped dry for more excavation at the launch site. Hey everybody, and welcome back. I'm BJ, and we'll talk about that and more today in episode 64 of our Starbase Flyover update, brought to you by RGV Aerial Photography. During this time, SpaceX crews have been super busy at all of the sites across Starbase. Aerial photos were taken on the 1st of November. With that, let's take a look around, starting at Massy's test facility. Before we dive in, let's have a quick look at Proky's labeled map to get you oriented. Beginning with the events of the week, the very first Block 2 ship, 33, conducted 3 cryogenic proof tests on the 29th and 30th of October and 1st of November. It was then moved back to the build site. Moving to the structural test stand, a number of pieces have been removed since last week. All of the cages for the outer 20 rams were removed and are sitting on the ground nearby. During the week, the attachment points for the 5 larger rams used for the crusher cap were removed, and 4 can be seen nearby here on the ground. We can see one of them has been reattached to its upright, 1 level higher than it was previously. To the rear, 2 more platforms have been lifted into place, and the hydraulic plumbing is making its way to the upper level. To the side, there are new smaller rams installed in this steel structure, believed to be part of the test rig for the booster thrust puck. Over by the old can crusher, there are a number of the same rams. Could all this mean that we will see a Block 2 booster test article soon? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. At the can crusher cap, we can see it has been placed on the ring that was assembled in the previous weeks. This could be a change in the interface between the next test article and the cap. The new tower section by the control hut has had lights attached and appears to be ready for raising. Finally, the maintenance platform has been raised at the static fire stand and chain boxes installed. And with that, on to Sanchez. First, we'll get our bearings with this labeled map. As always, let's start at the OLMB construction area. More progress is being made with the upper deck assembly having 2 corner sections lifted into place as seen here from our aerial photo. A 3rd corner piece was lifted into place on the 1st of November as seen in this ground image from our Patreon member Alaska Space. The 4th corner piece was then lifted into place late in the night of the 5th. Here is an assembly animation from O over on X showing how the OLM pieces come together when completed. Be sure to check out his X and YouTube accounts. More parts for the suspected flame bucket mounts are being constructed here. We will keep an eye on this design because it could vary from the one at Massy's. Over behind the GSC building, a new covered structure has appeared. This appears to be scaffolding covered in plastic sheeting to create a welding tent. Rolling to the chopstick and carriage area, we notice that more bracing will be added compared to the current chopsticks at Tower A, with these sections being prepared for welding reinforcement. The QD arm looks to be completed as scaffolding was completely removed, although we don't know if they will pre-install some cryo piping before shipping to the launch site. South of the QD arm, more piping is being constructed. These most likely are auxiliary commodities for the tower, like gaseous oxygen, methane, nitrogen, and helium, as well as hydraulics and pneumatics. Moving to the scrapyard, it looks like this is being turned into the new crane yard, as some cranes have been staged here, with more containers from the current crane yard being moved here. As we told you in the last episode, the PEZ loader is still here with no signs of it being scrapped. The loader has been emptied of all Starlink satellites this week, with them stacked nearby. At the rocket garden, flight-proven Booster 12 has been moved here with the damaged chine completely repaired. What do you think SpaceX will do with this vehicle? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Finally, at the parking garage, a section of the cladding behind the mural is being repaired, and the doorway closest to the rocket garden has some additional cladding added. The scaffolding on the high base side has also been removed, revealing the finished lower wall section. We will finish here at Sanchez with some new insights of how the interior of the HLS mockup may look. Thanks to the observations of Tom Bickmore in the next conversation with Ken Kirtland on X, he shared what he learned recently during a tour of Starbase. With this insight, the space engineer was able to model what the interior may look like. The mock-up in Sanchez consists of 2 levels separated by a floor attached at the base of the external access doorway we can see in our flyover images. The lower level includes life support systems and the upper level being a low-fidelity layout of what the crew quarters may look like. Opposite the entry door is a flight control area similar to the layout of the Crew Dragon capsule, with 4 seats facing the wall with control screens. To the left as you enter, there is simple shelf storage. On the other side, 5 crew sleep quarters are placed in a partial pinwheel orientation. In a crew starship with additional capacity, the payload space will include multiple levels that can hold 20 of these crew cabins. A special thanks to the space engineer for the visual interpretation of the discussion. Check out Tom's replies on X as well for additional details, as he was very active with questions posed to the subject. With that, let's move over to the build site. Here's a labeled map you can refer to as we go over each topic of interest at the build site. Starting off with Mega Bay 2, the bay is now home to 2 ships, both from the Block 2 generation. The first is Ship 33 in the back left, which is rolled back from its cryo-test campaign at Massy's. On the right, Ship 34 has been stacked up to its A3 section. The main downcomer was spotted on November 4th. This leaves just the AX section left before the ship is fully stacked. Refer to this diagram from Jax if you're confused regarding ship naming schemes. At the side of Mega Bay 2, we can see worker access platforms have been staged for installation within the bay. These are likely going to serve the same function as the previous platforms, which is to allow workers to access the heat shield of ships. At least 4 of these entered the bay and were installed on the front left workstation overnight on November 4th. Moving on to Mega Bay 1, Booster 16 has been stacked up to its A3 section, which was rolled in on October 30th. Again, we can refer to this diagram by Jax and the Ring Watchers to understand the booster's naming scheme. Also, shine covers, probably for Booster 15, can be spotted outside. We believe that Booster 15 is now on one of the workstations at the rear of the bay. Now looking at the high bay, we can see Ship 31 getting its heat shield replaced before Flight 6. If you recall, the white aft flap, seen last week, has now been filled with tiles. It appears that a few rows of tiles on the flanks of the main body have been left off, with their installation pins removed. This could be to test the new tile layout on the Block 2 ships, as seen by these images from Nick, aka Chameleon Circuit, over on X. Meanwhile, behind the Star Factory, one of the flap storage racks has been emptied, with the flap likely moved inside the factory for tiling. Also, the settling pond has been lined with rocks, and a safety fence continues on the stormwater wall along the boundary. Over at the connection between the office building and Star Factory, workers are continuing to install glass. Here's another image from Alaska Space showing the glazing work from Highway 4. Rotating around, we see that a new section of framework has been raised and much more roofing has been installed. In particular, note the twist in the roof elevation between the 2 buildings. Zooming in, we can clearly see the extension of the bridge crane rail, or the girders where the bridge crane will run along. The walls on the northern face of Star Factory have been partially torn down to connect the bridge crane beams to the already constructed segment. Drainage work along San Martin Boulevard has been extended up into Meme Street. Work on the sushi bar continues, with concrete block walls around the kitchen section being raised. Let's now go to the launch site. Here's this week's labeled map to get you familiar with the site. Beginning at Pad B construction, excavation of the trench remains unchanged this week. However, pump systems are now active as the trench is largely drained. At the southern end, the dewatering system has been connected to pumping equipment to bring them to operation. Also at this end, the drill rig remains on the southwest wall, continuing the underpinning process. At the northern end, we can see the completed culvert segment poured and removed of its forms. At the construction entrance, we can see the progress in dismantling and packing the CC-8800. The main chassis has moved closer to the highway with the control cab and A-frame removed. Looking to the right of the tower from this view, only one adapter segment of the boom booster remains. Just to the right again, the steel crane mats and counterweights have also been trucked away, with only one of each of these items being loaded on trailers due to their heavy weight. Trench work continues near the existing bunkers with conduits and an additional power vault being installed from the 4 vaults previously discussed. Just past the D2 entrance drive, a new excavation pit has appeared. Its purpose is a bit of a mystery, although it appears to be in line with the corner of the tank farm and the open fluids bunker at the new pad. Near the new subcoolers, The conduit work from last week has been backfilled, with concrete being broken apart to the south in the direction of the piles seen a couple weeks ago. Missed in the shadows last week, to the front of the last LOX tanks, concrete was dug out, exposing 8 piles for future hardware. Further down in front of the methane tanks, we see newly arrived cryopipes for the tank farm expansions. Nearby, we also see a few smaller assemblies that were removed from the liquid nitrogen systems. Looking along the edge of the old vertical tank farm, we can see a few abandoned pipes wrapped in white insulation. This week, it appears they have further abandoned the underground liquid nitrogen supply pipe to the lock side of the pump station in favor of running it all along the elevated pipe stands and making connections above ground. In preparation for the new tanks to be placed within the old tank farm, we can see the 12 pipe stands nearby waiting to be installed. This week was another rather quiet week at Pad A. The OLM is now empty of B13, with all the normal scaffold installations returning around the top ring as well as on the dance floor. The middle tower is also seen, used to support the center hub of the clamp alignment system. The only new hardware appears to be under the OLM to each side of the booster quick disconnect hood. We can see in this image new scaffolding that is attached to the side. In this image from Starship Gazer, 2 new vents with valves have been added. These appear to be one each of the liquid oxygen and methane supply pipes that may be used for venting liquid oxygen or liquid nitrogen during the chill down process. To the other side of the hood, a new enclosure with a robust door and sloped cover has appeared, though its purpose is more unclear. That's it for episode 64 of Starbase Flyover Update. I'm sure you'll agree it's been an amazing week at Starbase, with plenty more to come. Thank you for choosing to fly with RGV Aerial Photography. I hope you enjoyed the flight. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on further updates as we progress further towards completion of Orbital Pad B. Please consider joining our Patreon to get early access to flyover galleries, as well as participate in our show and tell discussions. I'm BJ, and we'll see you soon for another update on all the things that are happening at Starbase, Texas, from 10,500 feet.